We'll continue from where we stopped, which is we are still doing iteration. We are not done yet. There's other function that you can use to loop through an array. So we just finished discussing reduce. There's also another function called REDUCERIGHT. REDUCERIGHT does exactly the same thing as reduce, but the difference is that it starts from the right. Do you understand? So we can do an example of REDUCERIGHT. So we have a list, say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want to sum the value. So we say total is equals to a.REDUCERIGHT. The functions are the same. It takes the same parameter, previous, current, index, and the array itself, which I will not add here. So I want to console log the index so you see where it is starting. And I'm going to do return previous plus current. And we come here and we log the total. So if we run this, you see that the first one is index 3, and it goes down like that. Then it gives us the total. So if we run it as reduce, take note of this result. If we run it, you see that the first index starts at 1, and it goes down, and it also gives us 15 total. So the difference is that reduce reads from the left to the right, and REDUCERIGHT reads from the right to the left. So it does the same approach, but just taking different opposite direction. Is it clear?
Yes.
All right, so the next one is every. Every. So the every method check if all array value pass a test. Do you understand now? It will go through each individual value and check if it passes a test. And at the end of the day, it will return a Boolean value. So it's going to return true or false. And the same syntax is the same way you use it. So if you say is even equals to, so we want to check if all the item in this array is an even number. So if we say is even equals to a.every, and we pass in the function, remember that the first parameter is the value, the second is the index, but we just need the value at this point. So we're only going to pass 1, which is value. And we are going to check, so we are going to return true or false. So your evaluation of this, your function, must return true or false to every. That is the way it will know if this value passes your condition or not. So just the same way you do for filter. Filter will collect all the value that passes the test, right? So your every will also check the same. In this case, it's just going to check everything and make sure that everything returns true. So if one of them returns false, it's going to pass false to this variable. If everything returns true, it's going to pass true to this variable. So if we say value modulus 2 equals to 0, if we run this now, console.log is even variable, 1 to log is even. If we run this code, you see is even is false. That is because everything in this place are not even. Can you mute yourself? So it's going to return false because everything in this list are not even numbers. Because 3 is not even number, 1 is not, 5 is not, so it's going to return false. So if we create another array that will give even numbers, and we change this one to B, which is the new list we created, if we run this code, you will see that is even is true because everything in this list are all even numbers. So your every will check the function and evaluate whatever you put inside. The output must be true or false. So if all the evaluation returns true, it will return true at the end. If some of the evaluation is false, it's going to return false. It's just like when we learn comparison, we said that the AND operator checks that, make sure that everything is true. So this is what every uses. And OR checks that some of them is true, either one or more is true, then it will return true. And which is what we are going to learn next. The next method we are going to learn. So do you have any question on this before we move forward?
No question.
All right, so the next method we want to talk about is sum. Just like every, sum does the opposite, just like what I mentioned here, and or. Or and. So this one, every uses and, sum uses or, which means if any one of these lists is even number, is going to return true for sum. The same syntax with this, the same syntax. So here you do, let's check A first, and we do sum, the same syntax with the function, the same parameters it takes. So if we print this one now, if we print this is even, it's going to return true because there are some even numbers in this list. Not everything are odd numbers. There are even numbers. So if we are checking if there are an even number exists, we use sum, which means is sum of the value an even number. So it's going to return true. So for sum, it's going to return false if everything is false. For B now, if we run this, it's going to return true because everything are all even numbers, right? So if we say, is everything not even number, this is going to return false. You see now, because they are all false, and it's going to return false. All right, any question?
No.
Okay. So now let's talk of index of. Index of. I remember we discussed index of already when we are doing string method. So now this index of also exists in an array. And it does basically almost the same. So it searches an array for an element value and returns its position, just like the same thing index of does in a string. So if we do the position equals to a dot index of, we want to know the position of number 4. See this 4, we want to know the position. So we say index of, so your index of accepts the value that we are looking for. So in this case, 4. So if we do console.log, the position is going to give us 3. And if you check it here, remember that it starts from 0, 1, 2, 3. So the index is 3. So index of returns the index of a given value. This is quick one. And because we've discussed it before, it should be fairly easy to understand. And we also have last index of, exactly the same thing that last index of does in a string. That same thing it does also in an array. So if we check last index of 4, it's going to return the position also, which is 3. Now, this is the same because there is no other 4, right? So if we add more 4 to the list, then it's going to return the last index of this last one. So if you print this, it's going to give you 6 instead of 3. Do you understand now? Remember that index of checks for the first position of the first encounter of the value. It will return that position. Last index will return the last occurrence of the value and returns the position. All right, any question?
No question.
Move ahead. The next one is includes. Includes is going to go through the array and allow us to check if an element is present in that array. So since this one will return the index, this one will just check if that value exists in the array. So if we do console.log, if it exists, we say a dot includes a dot includes 30. We want to check if a list includes a value 30. So if we run this, it's going to return false because 30 does not exist in this list. So if we check for 5, which exists, it's going to return true because 5 exists in the list. So your include, just check if a particular value exists in a particular list, and it's going to return true or false, a Boolean value. Any question?
No question.
These are super simple, yeah? All right, so the next one is find. Find. So find is just as the name goes, is going to look for a particular value in an array. So, this find method returns the value of the first array element that passes a test. Do you understand? It will pass, that is, you pass a function, and any of the function that returns true is just going to return the value to you. So if we have, let's say, we want to look for number that is greater than 4 in this list. So we now say greater equals to a.find. Now your find takes a function, and the first is also the value, and the second is the index, and the third is the object itself again. So in this case, we just need the value. We want to compare the value. So we want to say return if value greater than 4. We want to find, in this list, we want to find the number that is greater than 4. So if we console log our greater value, if we console log this, you're going to see that it brought 5. So we also have find index. Find index does the same thing as find, but returns the index. Instead of returning the value, it returns the position of that value. So if we run this same code, you are going to get position 6, because the value is still 5, but is in position 6 in this array. And that is find index of. And the next one we discussed about is from. From will create an array from any iterable object. Something like a string can be iterated on. So it's going to take this string and create an array from it. So if you say array.from, remember you access from the array object itself. And when you call .from and pass it the parameter, which is the string you want to create an array from, is going to return you a new array with those items. And when you print this, you're going to get a list of what you have here. Just see this as the string operator .split. So they work similarly here. And yeah, that marks the end of this class. Let's give us an assignment. Task 16. Create an array with random numbers of length 10, which means 10 items in the list. So from this array, I want you to create another array that contains the positions of all the odd numbers. So, for example, if you have a list 1, 2, 3, I want you to create another list B that contains the position of all the odd numbers. So the odd number here is 1 and 3. So position, this 1 is in position 0, so you get 0 here. And this 3 is in position 2. You have 2 here. So this will be your resultant list when you write the code. So this is example. Any question?